What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
That's me, brother. I made it here. I made it off the couch. I made it to the chair. I feel like my life has been consumed recently by one Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Oh,
are you familiar with this game?
It's actually hilarious because I feel like here in office, I have gone to rather extensive efforts alongside you to get prepared for recording your Nuzlocke run of this game.
Yeah.
And yet I know almost literally nothing about the game itself.
That is, it's so perfect because I remember you earlier this year played through Breath of the Wild for the first time, like the world's greatest Zelda game of all time.
I think that Breath of the Wild might be one of the world's greatest games of all time.
I think just hard stop, it's the best video game ever made, probably.
Yeah.
I think it makes a compelling case. Let me just say, if you want more of that feeling but want to be a little bit more in on the Pokemon thing, like this is the game. Like you don't need to know anything about it. You could be completely blind to it. It's so good. I'm having so much fun with it.
I love that.
It is, yeah. I bet you guys would have fun with it. You just run around, you just explore stuff. It's just fun.
Well, here's what I'm actually enjoying about it is that you have done many a Nuzlocke run, which in case anybody listening at home doesn't know what the Nuzlocke is, it's basically hardcore mode for the game of Pokemon. So think of it like instead of your Pokemon being like, all the HP going down and just fainting, and then you go and heal them. It's like if they faint, then they're gone.
Then they dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a very difficult playthrough style, and you can only catch like one Pokemon from each area, and it's the first one that you encounter. So
exactly.
You have very limited control over who your team might be.
Right.
Like you could conceivably just be stacked with like the whole bunch of specific type Pokemon or whatever. So it puts you at a disadvantage at just about every corner.
But the point of it was to encourage like different styles of play and like it's Pokemon is largely like a rock paper scissors game. Like if you have the weakness advantage, then you're just going to knock them out almost no matter what.
Right.
But it puts you in a spot where like you don't get to choose who you're going to use, and therefore you have to make a lot of interesting decisions, and you might have to make weird switches and things like that. So yeah.
What I like about what I've heard from you playing Legends of Arceus is that it seems like whenever I've watched you do a Nuzlocke in the past, I've never even been remotely worried that you weren't going to do it. It's like Jay is just too good at this game. He knows too much about it. Like, yes, there have been some absolutely epic losses and stuff that have happened along the way, but it's like he can do. Like it's like there's no scenario where he doesn't complete the mission.
Sure.
And with this, it's like I'm like listening. It's like, he might not do it this time.
Let me tell you, I'm playing two games at the moment. There's the Nuzlocke at the office, and then there's just like my home game where I'm just, goofing around, having a regular playthrough, taking my time, not really doing anything. And as I'm going through that one, like where I have the freedom to get as many Pokemon as I want, do whatever I want, like stuff is just getting knocked out. And this is like I picked this team before the game came out. Like I'd seen enough preview Pokemon, like I'm definitely using that for sure, that, and I finally got my final 6, and I'm like, here we go. I'm so excited. And like stuff's just getting knocked out. Like sometimes you go into a fight, your opponent could just attack twice, and you don't even get to do anything. It's just boom, boom. It's like, whew, boy, it is going to be a very difficult run for sure. I am very curious to see how it's going to go.
It's going to be incredibly interesting. So yeah, if you haven't checked out the gaming channel before, it's very fun because like along the way we will like nickname all of the Pokemon, and you end up having like very, very close attachments with them because they are so much closer to just like not being there anymore. And when you lose somebody, you lose them for good, and it's very sad.
It is, especially if they've like carried you through like several big battles. Like you feel like you get to know them,
you do,
and then they're just gone. You can't use them anymore. It's like this sucks.
Yep. So it's very interesting. I'm very excited for it. It's been cool to watch you go through it because you're always so good at things like games and such and strategy that it's like it's hard. But it sort of is a nice segue, I feel like, into the next thing, because there is this phenomenon that seems to be sweeping the nation at the moment. And it's like one of these things where it feels like it will be like a flash in the pan. Like everyone is doing it right now.
It could be.
And I would imagine that it's almost like Pokemon Go. It's like when it came on, they're like the Pokemon people who did it, but then there were just like a lot of people who just did it.
Right.
And it was like you would like drive around downtown and there would just be like groups of people all herded around doing stuff. And, it's like all the news was talking about people going into backyards and stuff to catch things. And it was just, that wasn't good. Trespassing isn't good. But like it was fun to see the raw enthusiasm. And I feel like there's a maybe lessened version of exactly that thing because you don't actually go out and move about in the world. And it's this game called Wordle.
Dude, Wordle is such a fun phenomenon.
It is.
Bingo.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Phenomenon.
Phenomenon.
I feel like we've done a good job about not saying phenomenon too much lately.
Now we've said it like 5 times in under 10 seconds.
Kind of makes me happy.
Phenomenon.
It's one of my favorite words.
The phenomenon.
We should invent the phenomenon.
We should.
That could be the name of our novel.
Phenomenon.
Okay, so Wordle, though, is interesting because unlike Pokemon Go, where people got super obsessed and would go and spend all of their time playing it, Wordle does not even allow that. Like, it is a game that I feel like almost like respects the sanctity of the game.
It does. It is like it's so fun. If you have not heard of Wordle, I don't know what rock you're living under, but it is a game that you can go to. You have to go to a website, first of all. It's not an app. If you're playing it on an app, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You have to go to the website. It's like wordle.uk or something.
Right.
And you go in, you have, and all you're trying to do is guess a 5-letter word. That's the game.
It's like advanced hangman, I feel like is the best way to describe it. But like instead of just being like, is there an A? Like, is there an R? And them filling in where they go, it's like you have to use a 5-letter word in order to put your guesses on the board at all.
Right.
So it's interesting. Like, and then as you put these 5-letter words into the equation, if you have a letter that's in like the correct place, then it will show up as green. And if there's a letter that's not used at all, then it'll be gray. And if there's a letter that is used in the word, but it's not in the right place, it will be yellow.
Right.
And what's kind of fun about that though, is that I think like it's a really kind of profound strategic game that is also just absurdly simple.
Yes.
But there's a lot of different ways that you can play it.
Yeah, this has been the thing is that like the different ways in which people are approaching it in terms of like what they consider a win or like how competitive they are about it or like what their start word is. How do they use the same start word each day?
Oh, I want to come back to that.
Okay, yeah. So so Beth is the one who introduced it to me, and she gave me a good start word.
Okay,
and I've been using it ever since.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I like have seen on TikTok, like people have come by and there's like people who are like trying to give you strategy about how to play the game of Wordle.
Yeah.
And I am almost in camp. I don't use an optimized word. Like each day I'm trying to pick like a different 5-letter word to like just to start the race with. And I mean, this is probably in part, like I have only got it in 3 one time.
Okay.
So that's like, that probably goes to show that like I am not extremely competitive with it, but I feel like to me, it is just a little bit more fun if you are not using a word that is like, that presents as much strategic advantage each time, or at the very least attempting to find different words that still provide that strategic advantage. So like, for example, the word ado is one that a lot of people have been playing first because it's like ADEIU.
Right. So it uses most of the vowels.
Right. And so at that point in time, you pretty much are able to like narrow in like, okay, this is it. And if it's not one of those, then it's O.
Right, then there's an O in it because it's unlikely that it's just the Y.
Exactly.
On a 5-letter word.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing that I think is important to note about this game is you can only play it once per day. There's one round per day. So it's not like this type of thing where you can become obsessed with it and just like get sucked into a hole and play like 50 rounds. So like, because the stakes are even that much higher, it's like you have one go at it. You get to play once.
Yeah, and you get 6 guesses, and each guess is a little bit more informed from the last guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so what is your optimized starting word?
Oh, I don't know if I can tell you that, Ben.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
This is very interesting. I thought for sure you were. I was thinking just like how you have in the past explained how to like win tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
It's like certainly he's going to explain to us how to win Wordle.
Well, so this is okay. So here's the thing. I know there's like some people are like secretive about their start word, like as if because like maybe they think it's really good and that'll give them more like low scores, more like, I guess, what would a high score? Like more 2s and 3s, more solves in 2 or 3.
It's kind of like golf.
Right.
Yeah, like you want...
Like, and you know, if you have a really good word and you don't want... But the other part of it is like, part of me, because I use the same word every day, and I tweet my results every day.
Okay.
What I do. So if I say it, then what can happen is people will be able to look at my results and immediately know, like, my results could inform people's guesses for the day. You know what I mean? If you know my start word, like me and Beth use the same start word. So we can't text it. We have to ask each other, like, have you finished it? Because otherwise I'll be able to look at her results and immediately know what her first round was. Like I won't know what her second word was, but I can take information from the first line.
I know, but I mean, this feels like it feels like so many layers deep. Like because we're not, are we even on a score? Is there like a public scoreboard?
There's not like a public scoreboard, but you get a personal statistic breakdown after each game.
Okay, but so I mean, at that point in time, if somebody's going to the links to be like, okay, I know Jay's start word, let me go to Twitter in order to figure out like information from the knowledge of his start word based, because when you share your results, it doesn't show any of the words. It just shows what happened. Right. So like it'll show you like the squares. Man, I'm fascinated that you are not going to share your start word.
I've thought about it. Maybe okay.
You don't have to. If anything, I think at this point you need to stick to your guns.
Stick to it.
I think you should not tell us.
Oh,
but I thought it. I wouldn't have said that if it weren't for the fact that you had refrained to start. And it's like, oh, that is interesting to me that you would be guarded enough.
Well, so because there's 2 layers. It's because there is the 2 layers to it. It's like, it's not necessarily like hoarding the information.
Okay.
Like that I don't want other people to have my good word, because I know Beth read the word off of like a blog post that suggested like, here's some good start words.
Okay.
Right. So it's not like super duper secret. It's like a known good start word.
Yeah.
It's not audio or ado or anything like that. Those are okay as well. But it does contain 3 vowels in it and then 2 super common letters.
Okay.
So I really like that about my particular start word, because like I think normally but in a 5-letter word, once you know exactly, like if none of my 3 vowels are in there, it's obviously the other 2. Yes. Or at least one of them.
Okay.
And typically you can tell based on like where the letter isn't, how the word is kind of going to go. Like most words don't start with O. I haven't had a single O word yet.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, okay, well, the O will be in there, but it probably won't be at the front, and this letter is here, so it's, you know, I don't know, you can start working from there. But
this is I mean, like the way you've already talked to me about it, like both in office and on the pop right now, it is amazing to me the layers of strategy that you bring to this game that I had never considered before. Like I'm just sort of like
this is a word that could work.
Yeah, I'm usually going at it and I'm like ghost, you know, GHOST. And then my other thing too is like, you know, when I feel like I'm being strategic, it's like I am not going I feel like I'm being clever by being like, okay, there were no T's, which mean I'm not going to include the letter T in any of my other guess words. Like I can safely,
obviously, yeah.
But yes, obviously. For you, strategy level 10, but all of us strategy level 3s over here.
I was considering this today because I knew I might have to reveal my start word today, and I realized I could rearrange the letters to make a different word.
Oh, I see.
But then this new thought occurred to me that like would my new rearranged word actually be better? Like would the other word be more informative based on the new letter placements? Like,
see, look at this. Look, because you are also considering like, oh, it's very unlikely that this letter would occur at this point in the word.
Like, is it better to know on your first guess that the A isn't the first letter, or that it isn't like the second letter?
I don't know.
I know, but this is what I was wondering about earlier today. And then the other, I have I also have some people like they do play a different start word each day,
Okay.
which is fine. But I think a good advantage of playing the same word every day is that every now and then none of my letters will be in there.
Okay.
Like it'll be a straight 5 loss on that.
Okay.
In that case, what is good is that I have a like locked and loaded second word too that I can try out that like uses the remaining vowels and other common letters. So I always have the same 2 potential start words.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. It's just so it's fascinating to me the different approaches.
Yeah.
Like I can't even like think of like what a good example of this, like the shoe being on the other foot, like a scenario where I would show up to it's something like a project we were working on and bringing like a literal jackhammer or a tractor, and
Yeah.
you brought like a hammer.
Yeah.
You know, like a handheld hammer.
Yeah.
It's like you really thought we were gonna do with that. But like I'm over here holding the hammer, being like just hitting my keyboard with it, hoping the letters work.
There they are.
Because sometimes I even have trouble thinking of like words, because like that'll be like my trouble. It's like, okay, like I need to figure out like a word. Like do you I don't even know. Like, okay,
Let me get you want me to drop some other bits of strategy I've picked up here?
give me some other bits
Here
of
you
strat.
go. Here you go. The words are never plural. Like that's not a case. You can rule those out. Like it's not going to end. It could still end in an S, but it's not the plural of a word.
Okay. Yep.
Right? There's not that. There's also no tense. There's not going to be like ending in ed or
Okay,
something like
yep,
that.
yep.
But it's not like it won't let you put those in there. Like,
True.
but those are all pitfalls. Don't do that. They won't be those words.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's that. And then this is the really tricky part, okay? This is something I've been trying to like unpack, and it takes I think a while of playing before you can even start to realize this. But I think part of the skill of Wordle is understanding like the very slight sense of humor Wordle has about it.
Yes, I would agree with that. Like, for example, it could be the case that like if the letter R is revealed to be in your word, it's like it's not often, but every once in a while there will be 2 R's.
Oh, yes.
And like that sometimes like you will rule out letters that you already know verified locations of. And so it's like I can't figure this out. Like what could it be with the remaining letters? And it's like, oh, it's like it could be one of the existing letters I already have twice.
The double letter is one of the trickiest things they can pull.
Yes.
But so like here's another thing I mean with like the sense of humor about it. So a couple days ago the word was skill, SKILL, right? So it was a double letter word.
Yep.
Tricky, but you could figure out I think pretty early on that there was a double L at the end.
Okay.
Like early on, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter have a very similar shape. And what was happening was that people were figuring out the S and the I and the double L. And at that point, you're sort of on like coin flip mode, right? Because it can be spill, still, skill, swill, you know, like you just have to guess.
Yes.
Like what's it going to be?
Yep.
But here's the sense of humor is that the answer was skill, right? You needed like skill, like the answer was like what you needed to answer it.
Have you played today's?
I have played today's.
Because I feel like today's had a tremendous sense of humor.
Exactly. No, yeah. So we can say what the word was today because now it's past.
Yes.
But yeah, the word today was humor.
Yeah.
Right? And everyone's having the exact same thing about it as well. Like a lot of people are getting like up to 4 correct. Like there's like 4 yellow squares, which is weird that you would get 4 letters correct, but none of them are in the right spot.
Right.
Very unusual for the Wordle. And then when you get it, it's like, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's
and my problem
hilarious.
is, yeah, like, so, but the same thing, yeah, is like still versus skill. Like I got down to, you know, UMOR, and I thought the joke was going to be the double R's. And so
Oh.
I went rumor.
Oh.
And
Okay.
then, so like when you said there's a sense of humor, I was like, yeah, there is.
Exactly. I know. It's a very good thing for literally today's Wordle. But like, so I was sitting there wondering, like, on the day it was skill, like, would they be bold enough to do skill? Like, will they make that the answer? Because then you needed skill to guess skill.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Also, one day the word was like moist, which is like the most triggering word ever. And it was like, they did not make it moist. They did that on purpose. Like I think that's very clever. Like it's not much, but there's like a very light sense of humor about the word sometimes.
There definitely is. That is so. And the other thing that I think has really been kind of interesting about it, because there is this shareability. It is like the reason it became a phenomenon is because of the way that you can share it on social media, and then everybody's like, well, what's this? And then the barrier to entry to play the game is almost nothing. Like every single person has played Hangman, like while they're waiting for class to end or something like that. So it's like it doesn't take skill to play the game. It might take skill to like be good at the game.
Okay.
In terms of like, I guess in terms of that. But what I also think is interesting about it is it does seem like the secrecy around not revealing the word to anybody is like people are being very considerate about it.
This is another very fun aspect of the game, right? Is that everyone, you cannot say what the word is.
Yes.
And, like I was very afraid, like, as soon as I see this, people are going to be like responding with what the answer is right away.
Yep.
And it's like no one has. I have not had the word ruined for me once.
Oh no, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. But even like in our like work chat today, I finished mine and I like went to like type a note about it because we've talked about it here in office before. And I was like, ooh, I almost said like my confusion with the R and the H or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, but if I say either of those, then I will, even if they don't know what it is, even though there are 4 other letters, the fact that I had revealed that H isn't one of them and R is one of them would have been like, you have now given a hint. Like I wasn't even close to giving somebody the word. I was only close to letting them know that R is in it. And even that felt like, oh no, I can't do that. I can't like ruin someone's, like they need to have like a fresh approach.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
So I don't know. It's been really cool. So if you haven't played yet, it's really neat because chances are it will take no more than 10 minutes of your day, and it can't take any more than what it takes to play one time because you can only
play one time. Right. And so this is the crazy thing that has been popping up around Wordle is that there's been like a bazillion like copycat games of it. Or there's like, this is the Harry Potter version of Wordle, or this is like Beth was playing a geography version the other day.
Oh, interesting.
Where you guess a country and you're looking at a globe and it'll light up a country, a specific color, and the color of the country represents how close the answer is in proximity to that country.
Oh my gosh. So it's not even explicitly like words that you're talking about. It's the concept of you take a guess. Based on your guess, I will give you information.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, but then like and I think she's played that a few times, and it's like, I think if you played that enough, you would start like learning a lot more country names. But I will say that one was more frustrating out of the gate because it's just like, I just don't know like where every single country is or the name of every single country.
It's true. So. Like I think if I remember from like world geography, like Africa has like 50 or more countries in it.
Right.
Somewhere in that proximity. It's just a lot. And so it's very possible that it's like, especially if you're in like that area, it's like, man, I need to go back. But it could be a great way to learn.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, maybe I'm sure if you do it every single day, you'll just eventually start learning lots of new countries. Or you'll just be like staring at like a map of Africa every day. Like, okay, just try and remember where all these are so I can get the answer faster.
Look at us.
Okay, so now let's go back to Wordle for a second. When you play, are you trying to get it like you could say that on any given Wordle, as long as you solve it, that's a win, right? Or are you like trying to get it in like 3 or 4 or something?
I would say like if anything, my target would be 4.
Okay.
I think that you've said that it's 3, and I have only gotten it in 3 once, and I think it's because my starter word that day just happened to be very strong. Otherwise, I think part of the problem is that I'm usually playing it sort of like in between tasks at work, and I always feel like kind of hesitant about dedicating like too much of my brain space to it. So probably if I were to like really sit down and spend more time with it, I would on average do better and therefore care more about my, like at what point in time I'm guessing it. But up until this point, I've largely just considered it a win if I solve it. Period.
Right.
But I've also never not solved it, and it's never taken me 6.
Okay.
So there is that, like, and that is the other thing that I do find to be interesting about this game is that the scalability, like getting it in 2, 3, it's like that's like expert mode, and then 4, 5 feels like like intermediate, but it's like 6, it's like you probably should get it at 6, like
Sure.
like enough information at that point in time has been put on the table.
Yeah.
It is 6. That's the max.
6 is your final guess.
Okay.
I've only ever failed once, and the word was proxy. And I know that I think has been like, I know lots of people failed that day.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's one where I feel like whoever is in charge of choosing the word of the day, it's like they threw an X in there.
Yeah, they put the X in.
Yeah. And there is one vowel and Y.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, it's O, X, and Y.
Yeah.
And then like you probably put the R in pretty early, so you probably had that.
Yeah. I would usually say like R, S, T, and A and E would be like what I would assume would be the most commonly used letters.
Yeah, I think so. And then I think figuring out like a G, like H is a good one.
Okay.
As well. Because a lot of 5-letter words make use of like GH or WH or TH or SH.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the thing, like 5-letter words are really hard. I feel like I often find myself thinking of like 4-letter words like with an S or something.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, no. This is
that is where I really get into trouble after like 3 guesses is there is such a limited, it's like now you have stipulations as to like where letters might be, and I just have a hard time thinking of words that would then place them correctly. Like what is it, like mnemonic devices, like ways to remember things. I genuinely think that in my like educational like progression, like as I came up, it occurs to me just how well things like that helped me actually remember information. Like, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem like the extent to which I don't even know, like how much it has anything to do with anything. Like I remember in like 6th grade, I had to learn, I played percussion in middle school, but before they would allow you to ever play drums, you had to learn how to play the bells, which meant that like for the first semester of school, like the first half of the year, you only played bells. But at basically any point after that, I never played bells again. But I still remember like every good boy does fine and face are like what those, like what the notes,
like what the staff is.
Yeah, it's what the staff is. And it's funny because it's like you're literally talking about something that I would have spent a really minimal amount of time in one of my like extracurricular classes from age 11. And yet, like, that stuck with me.
Right.
But then frequently, like, we read Harry Potter over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, sometimes there are still details from it that, like, are fairly common details that I can't remember. Right. Because it's like, because I've never spent any time attempting to figure out how to remember it.
Right.
I don't know where this conversation started or why it got, but I think that's exactly what it is with the 5-letter words, is that like my brain hasn't built these pathways.
Oh yeah, to like 5. It's like to specifically think about 5-letter words.
Right. Like so it's like for me, I struggle a lot with even coming up with any.
Yeah.
It's like I like really have to think hard in a way that maybe isn't as challenging for other people, or maybe their brains are more neatly organized, and that type of stuff could come more naturally.
I mean, it's just learning a new game altogether anyway. I mean, maybe if you've played like a lot of like Scrabble or crosswords or other word games or something, you've got like a big vocabulary ready for something like this.
Right.
Yeah.
I like to think the way that my brain works typically is that it is, I think I've talked about this before, but it's very like Marie Kondo. It's like, is this information bringing you joy? No, it's gone. Like
forget it.
We are done with it.
You're done with that information.
But on the flip end of things is that if it's information that I do want to know, it's like I can learn a lot really, really, really fast.
Yeah.
If it's like building towards accomplishing something that I want to know how to accomplish.
Okay.
So there is that. That's helpful.
That's good.
But so far, I haven't been able to put any of that to work on Wordle.
To the Wordle.
To the Wordle.
Well, this is I have so far not gotten any 2s, but I have more 3s than anything else. Like on my breakdown.
Wow.
So I am getting into 3 more often than not, but I have not gotten a 2 yet. I think a weird thing is that, like, and this is another reason to do the same word every day, is that it gives you, like, eventually one day, if you play it every day, one day you will have that glorious
hole in one.
That hole in one. Like, it will be your word eventually. It has to be. Right?
Wordle is literally mini golf.
Yeah.
A hole in one, very, like, maybe not very unlikely, but not as common.
Right. Yeah.
6 putts, you should get it.
You should get it in. Yeah, right. You should get it. But so, like, here's the thing though, is like, we're as considerate as everyone is about not spoiling the word, is that, like, no one's going to believe you didn't cheat if you post got it in one.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's super easy to cheat.
Oh, it's incredible.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. Like, no doubt about it. If you just say, like, what is the Wordle word of the day?
Yeah.
Like it's out there. So someone has posted it.
I mean, you could just solve it on your, like, desktop and then play it on your phone and just be like, here's the word. But it's like, here. So this is maybe then the advantage of people knowing your start word, is that, like, if I say what my start word is here, then the day it's finally the hole in one, there will be proof that was always my word.
I think it's just worth holding on to it.
Oh yeah. At this point,
Jay, you've become mysterious. Like, if we were in high school right now, this would be like the day where, like, all of the cheerleaders would have been like, hang on a second.
Wait a minute, he's not saying a start word?
Intriguing.
Whoa.
I know. Like, it's like, now this is different. You just became fascinating.
Wow, look at me.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Jay, ready for transition?
Transition.
And we're back. I always like a good transition.
Always good.
I was talking to my brother-in-law, Mike, over the weekend, and I had what felt like a little bit of progress on an analogy that I have loved for such a long period of time.
Okay.
And this goes back to, like, pretty much the first podcast I ever truly remember listening to was Hello Internet. And the first episode of Hello Internet, they give this example of, basically, you are a 100-watt battery. There are 4 light bulbs. Those 4 light bulbs are basically like your personal relationship, your friends and family, your health, and your profession. And, like, as your 100-watt battery, it's kind of like, how do you fill those light bulbs? So the most immediate thought is sort of this, like, if you were to put equal energy into all of them, then you would have 4 light bulbs that are only lit at 25.
Right.
And that might mean that you're sort of underperforming everywhere as like, maybe the thought process there, which I don't think it's totally true. Like, I think you can go to work and turn on work 100%, and then when you leave work, turn it off and put family on 100%. But it's probably trying to figure out, like, where are you ultimately balancing all of these things? And for me, since having Addison, it has become much clearer how good this analogy is in terms of when you are operating your life at full bandwidth capacity.
Okay.
So, like, before, I feel like I was always able to do a lot of stuff, but I still feel like I was only ever operating at, like, 90 to 95% efficiency.
Okay.
Or capacity, rather, not efficiency.
Okay.
So, like, I always had a little bit left if I needed it. And what has happened since having Addison is that I am at 100% and Addison takes up 60% of it, meaning, like, the other 40 is basically like this scarce zone.
Right.
Where it's like,
but that it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like all of a sudden she's taking up 60%, whereas before you were using 95 and she was taking up 0.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So now you're having to do 95% or, like, 95 capacities worth of stuff with only 40.
Exactly. Yeah. So I am now overdrafting, like, well into, like, the mid 100s.
Yeah.
You know, like, by a lot.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple of different pieces of this here, because I do think the other thing I've become acutely aware of is sort of like I haven't put any energy into like my friendship bulb in the past like 2 weeks. And it's like you can almost like feel the effects of that happening, you know, because it's like, like I could see where if I don't intentionally fill that light bulb again, then like, not that any of the people in my life would, you know, hold it against me or anything like that, but it's like, but it will or could eventually be the case that like that is how like a friendship might like drift a little bit, because in order to maintain, you know, any of these things, it requires a considerable amount of focus.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you think about like someone who's hyper career oriented, for example, these might be the type of people who tend to not have like a pet, or maybe don't have like a, like not to say like a committed relationship in a, like a, what am I trying to say here? Like maybe just don't maintain a relationship because so much of their energy is going into that professional light bulb.
Right.
And so it's like anybody who might come to date them or whatever is like, well, this person's just like obsessed with work. They don't make time for anything else.
Right.
And, but then probably what you ultimately see is that area of that person's life flourishes.
Right. Like this is where they spend all their time, and they do a lot of stuff there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think for one, the whole analogy has started to make a lot more sense to me, even though it did before as well. But the other thing I've maybe come to realize is that like we are like I've talked before about having like depression, and we're in like winter months at the moment,
right? Which
usually means that like you've got like a little bit of like that seasonal depression that puts like a nice sugar coating on top of the existing problem. And what I have found is that all of a sudden I feel like my mental health is the battery. So like I've always thought it was interesting because like to say everybody has a 100-watt battery, you know, maybe doesn't seem totally accurate, because some people might be able to just do that like 100% work, and then I go home and I spend an hour, you know, doing like 100% family, and then after that I go and spend some time with friends and I put 100% into that, and it's like on a daily basis I am able to put 100% into all of these things, and I just focus on what I'm focused on while I'm focused on it.
Right.
And what I have found for me is that the better my mental health, the more that battery wattage can deviate from 100 up or down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right. Say it again.
Okay. So the better shape that my mental health is in, the more my battery can deviate up or down. Meaning like if I'm having like a down day, or I'm like I don't know, frustrated with something, or like having like anxiety about like, you know, like one thing in particular, like a pending event or something, then it might mean that my entire battery wattage just goes down to like 85.
Like if you're having a bad mental health day, you have way less wattage to even power the light bulbs.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
But what's interesting about it is that like I talked about before, it's almost like I'm overdrafting. But on a really, really good day for me, I feel like I can like pump my wattage up to like 120.
Right.
And it's like, it just is the case that I quite literally can do more.
Right.
I can get more out of my own person. So that, even that though, I think is eye-opening, because it's a really interesting lens to look at mental health through, because it is almost like the primary driver that allows you to do all of the rest of it.
Right.
You know, and the more it's okay, the more you can do everything else.
Right.
And so then I think that even that, it kind of puts into focus, like, what do you even prioritize then in order to maintain the battery?
Right.
And so now all of a sudden it's almost like the light bulbs themselves can like have a relationship backwards.
I see.
Do you see do you follow where I'm going?
Like if you distribute it out such that you're spending time with all these four things, then it should improve your mental health, thus making you more able to focus on those four things.
So maybe it's a battery with a solar panel.
Ah.
And so when you can light up the light bulbs bright enough, the energy can be absorbed by the solar panel and put back into the battery.
Yeah. It's a solar panel powering solar light bulbs. They shine right back. It's a perpetual motion device.
Exactly.
If only.
Do you think anybody's ever pointed a fan at a windmill before and just had infinite energy?
Yeah, why can't you just put all the fans in a circle and then they just blow each other, forever, right?
Right, yeah.
There's no problem. Solved. Energy done.
I don't know what people have been
You're
stuck on this for
welcome,
too
Earth.
long.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've made the analogy way more complicated through all of this, but I do feel like it is something that has helped me a lot because it's one of these things where at times I will notice that like I haven't put as much time into friends, or it's kind of like my family is taking up so much of my attention that like maybe I'm not fully at work when I'm at work. Typically, I think my health bubble is probably the one that gets the most steady energy. It's one way or
like
another.
your like health, like physical fitness, or
probably physical fitness.
Okay.
Yeah. It seems like that's the one that's like it's fairly constant. I wouldn't even say that it operates at 100.
Yeah.
I would just say that it's steady.
It's steady. Well, I think that's another like reciprocal cycle is like working like maintaining your physical health often does wonders for your mental health.
Exactly.
That's always like anytime I talk to like my therapist and all, and I'm having like some, large number of stressors or something I'm venting about, she'll be like, "Are you working out right now?" And I'd be like, "No." She'll be like, "Yeah, that's right."
Therapist knowing everything.
Knowing the things. But yeah,
Anyway.
right now I've got pretty good gym schedule going at the moment. So.
But I think it's a good conversation. I feel like it's even good for like the person who may be in like a relationship with you is almost like chatting with one another about where you think and where they think that energy is being placed, because I feel like it's almost one of those things that can be like a very handy tool. Like if you're in your relationship and you're like, I feel like we're not spending enough time, like us time. It's like, I don't feel like our relationship light bulb is getting like the necessary amount of wattage.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And then it feels like you're using the example to, allow the conversation versus just saying the words, "You are not paying enough attention to me."
Right. How can I phrase this in a way?
I know it. A solar powered battery with a light bulb.
Exactly. It'll make perfect sense. Do you have an hour?
And paper. And a whiteboard. And a chair.
Yeah. You know what? I have a handy podcast you can listen to.
Oh, man. So there's that. Okay, moving on from that topic to something maybe a little bit more lighthearted with a corny joke.
Oh, a corny joke? You have a corny joke?
I have a corny joke. This one's going to come from Tisha, who says, "What do a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common?"
A tick.
A tick. One of my least favorite things on the entire planet Earth.
Who hates the tick in the wise man's sphere? Tempe. I do not like tick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. What does a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common? That they will suck the blood right out of you.
Yeah, yes. You
Totally. I'm right on the money.
The thing about the Eiffel Tower that people don't frequently discuss is the fact that when you get close to it, the blood comes out of you. No, the real answer is that they are both parasites.
Oh, parasites.
You get
Hilarious.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And the good news is it turns out the Eiffel Tower does not suck any blood at all.
Well, that's good. That would be a big non-selling point for me.
It would be a big non-selling point, I think, for many people.
No, thank you. I'll look at the pictures.
Right.
I don't need to go visit a giant tick in Paris.
I can see it from afar just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah. Man, I don't like ticks.
No. Who likes a tick?
No one does.
No one likes.
No one does.
No one.
Popular opinion alert.
Yes. Popular opinion alert. Ticks are the worst.
The hot take would be liking ticks.
Okay, this was a weird talking about ticks.
Oh gosh. People are gonna leave.
People are not gonna. Okay, so this is I think an interesting phenomenon, if you will.
Phenomenon.
Yeah. So when I was working on Lake Effects, the movie they shot at Smith Mountain Lake here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they there was a bunch of people who had come like from LA and California, like the film crews and stuff, to set up and work on the lake. Right? And we're filming right next to the lake, sort of like in, there's trees and woods and stuff around.
Yeah.
And clearly one of the things that they've been briefed on, or that so many people there were so worried about, was like ticks and Lyme disease.
Oh, sure.
Like so present. Like, don't go in the, like, which to me was just hilarious, because I've lived here my whole life and I've been in the woods so much.
Right.
It's like, you know what? Have I ever had a tick on me? Yes. Am I concerned about getting Lyme disease on any given day because I was adjacent to the woods? Absolutely not. It's like, it's just this very interesting, like, misplaced fear.
Yeah. And it's really funny too, because a lot of times I have thought about living out west somewhere, but there are areas out west where there are tarantulas and scorpions.
Right.
And in my mind, it's like they're in your shoes every morning.
Like, you got to be looking out for those scorpion shoes, man.
I know. It's like
them shoe scorps.
I need someone to tell me who lives out there. It's like, is it a common, like I feel like it's possible to come from some part of the world and like see squirrels running around and be like, whoa, what's up with those?
What the what?
You just have wild
rodents,
squirrels everywhere, which is, I always do think is funny. It's like, if squirrels didn't have bushy tails and they looked like rats running around, it would be so much less fun to like watch them jump on your fence.
Here's the thing: is that I bet if they did, they'd be way more like pest considered, and people would like take care of it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But yeah, so my question,
because like possums exist, rats exist. It's not like they're not just out there.
They are. That's true. Yeah. Sometimes I think at night, I'm like, there are animals just sleeping in the woods right now. Like, I like to think about them and like just imagine, like, where do they just park it at the end of the day?
They're out there.
Like
rest assured.
Like, I like to think that deer go home at the end of the night, but then it's also like, why are they out during the day? Why do they ever leave home?
Yeah. What are they doing?
Probably because they don't specifically have. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I want to know is like, do you live somewhere where scorpions are present? And like, how big of a deal is it really?
Right. Like, if you see a scorpion in your house, is it like a ho? Like, are you like freaking out, or is it like of the sort of threat level, like, okay, yeah, there's a spider in the house. Okay, I don't like it in here and I am going to do something about it, but I'm not like, about to die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, because that's like where we go mountain biking is a place called Carvin's Cove.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could tell you that I have seen bears there 3 times. And it's like, there are bears in this woods. I've also been here 200 times and I have seen bears 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm 100% sure they are out there. So it's like, if I was like in the desert getting to go on like a mountain bike ride, someone could be like, there are scorpions out there. It's like, will you see them? I mean, you could, but I don't think that it's like gonna be part of your like every
that's
ride.
not the reason not to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. But what's funny about it is like, I hear exactly what you're saying and I think the same way. It's like that someone was overly concerned about the tick problem, unless the only thing that I would say would give this like a little bit more validity would be if there was like some type of well-known outbreak at the time.
There was not.
Okay. Yeah. Because like Lyme disease is definitely like no joke. Like, it can be like
you don't want it, and that is how you get it. You're not wrong.
Right. But yeah, it's like living here. It's definitely not something that all of us talk like when we go camping, we can go through an entire camping trip and not even bring it up at all.
At all.
Yeah. So there's that. Okay.
Yeah. And like even if you get a tick, there's no guarantee. Like, you might have just had a tick,
Oh, sure.
That's not
sure.
synonymous with contracting the disease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
So anyway,
now that we've talked about ticks for just absolutely way
too long.
Let's see. Okay, I have a query for you.
Fire away.
Okay, so we were working on a video this week about Frozen 2.
Yeah.
And Anna has a song about the next right thing.
Yes.
Okay. I, throughout life, have had sort of this like characteristic about me, I think, and I can't tell if it is like a really like strong quality that like leads me to success, or if it is actually like kind of like a problematic trait. But it's like, I don't know if I can quite apply it from like just like a sheer morality standpoint to like on a song of like, what is the next right thing to do? Like, what is the next right thing to do?
Okay.
But for me, I think that I have always had the like, what is the next thing to do? Like in a way that is almost like you and I have talked about this before, but it can be the case that whatever the biggest problem that you are facing right now is, like, no matter what, it's still the biggest problem that you are facing. So like if it's stressing you out, it's like, it may be the case that someone somewhere else is dealing with something that is like way, way, way more stressful.
Right.
But it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't experiencing from like the human condition a similar sensation.
Sure.
You know, it's like this is stressing me out. Like this is bad and I don't want this to happen. It's like, sure, things could be a lot worse, you know, but like in my scope, like this is the problem that I'm facing. So for me, I feel like I have gone through life and it applies in like a bunch of different areas. Like it could be the case that like maybe like a purchase that I want to make where it's sort of like, okay, like I want to be able to, you know, like buy like a piece of, like last year I bought like a piece of land, but it was almost like buying a piece of land was like the stair step to being able to, like, you know, build a house. And the reason that I wanted land to build the house on is so that eventually I can have like bike trails or like ATV trails or whatever, like be able to like go and play in the woods. And it's just like, you know, each thing is sort of like, okay, then this and then this and then this and then this. And it's like every time that I like accomplish a goal, I'm almost just like, and what's next?
Right.
You know, like I don't sit there and like bask in the glory of having accomplished it. It usually just means that like goal complete. Now I need to do the next goal.
Right.
But it can also be the case that with the biggest problem that faces me on like a daily basis, it could sort of be like, okay, I have solved the biggest problem that is facing me. And then it's like the next day I wake up and be like, now I have a new biggest problem that's facing me.
Right.
And the thing is that problem the next day is smaller
right.
than the one the day before.
Sure.
Because if it wasn't, then it would have been the problem from the day before.
I guess so, yeah.
And so the thought is almost like, as you go through life, it's sort of like, I can't decide if I'm just never content. Like, is there a situation where I will be content? Like, I will have finally gotten to the end.
You are, I don't know. I've noticed this trait about you as well. Like, you always, like, it's like your brain needs a new, like thing that's bothering you or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, but that's the thing. So, and that's why I say like, I can't tell if this is like a huge flaw in my character that it's like, oh, I'm going to be annoyed with something. And so it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I mean, I got to be what is the thing that bothers me that I'm annoyed with this? You know, like this has become the thing. Or is what's happening again, like if you want to use like the Marie Kondo idea, it's much more like methodically going through and trying to like eliminate those things.
Sure.
Or would it just be the case that if I did it too successfully, kind of like, you know, there's examples of how like robots could take over or whatever. It's like, would I just eventually just cut like everything out of my life until there was just nothing left?
Right.
You know, it's like now the biggest thing that's annoying me is my boat.
It sounds like, are you wondering, like, is there a, like, do you have a compulsive need to have a problem with something? Or is it like, if I just fixed, is there a point where it's like, it is possible to just not be bothered?
I mean, that would be my question. Is it possible to just not be bothered?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is something where it's like, that is the question though. It's like, are you either being extremely productive on always figuring out how to make your life better and therefore always moving forward? Or is it the case that you're just like failing to ever just be like content and therefore there's just always the next thing. There's always the next thing.
I think really I think you're talking about two different things a little bit. Like on the one hand, like being able to like solve a problem that is actively bothering you and is a problem is like a good trait.
Okay.
But like, you know, if you knock down a mountain and then you're just upset that the next tallest mountain is the next tallest mountain, like that's, you know, sometimes it's okay for mountains to just exist.
Sure. Yeah. And that's like, because that's the other thing too, right? Yeah. It's like, what are the tolerances that you might have or the awareness that like not everything in your world is going to be perfect. So just because it's not perfect doesn't mean that it needs to be fixed.
Right.
Yeah, because I feel like that's maybe like what you're saying. It's like it's not your favorite mountain, but it's fine.
No, it's just that's not necessarily.
No,
I think
okay.
just that, like, you know, it's a weird, you can't, because this is a weird analogy because you can't like actually knock over mountains or anything. But it's like if you
says you,
yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. I would never knock over a mountain. I love mountains.
That would be bad. That would be bad. It was bad for the ecosystem or something. But like, you know, I think like there's many things in your life, and not everything in your life is a problem. But if you want to use like, you know, I don't know, like mountains as an example or something, it's like if the biggest thing in your life is the problem and it is a mountain and you get rid of it, it's like there's still plenty of other hills and not all of them are problems, but one of them will be the biggest because that's just how life works. And it's just like, if that's the biggest thing and it's the thing that's consuming you the most, it's like it might not be a problem. It might just be another hill. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a good way to say it. And that is the question, is like whether or not you're on this like ongoing quest of like betterment versus, or are you just like on a warpath towards anything that bothers you at all?
Right.
And I feel
it's like there's a difference between like betterment and like weeding, because it sounds like, you know, it sounds like you're more like removing a problem than like improving yourself.
Well, I suppose the hope would be that you would be improving yourself. Like you're constantly like elevating like your sense of self along the way. Like these are things that like at the very least the perception is that you would be happier if accomplished.
Okay.
But I guess that's maybe the question is like, does it eventually become like so granular? Like I guess that's kind of what I'm saying is like, if you keep going forward, and kind of like what I said in the beginning, the biggest problem that you are facing is the biggest problem that you are facing.
Right.
Like, and that might be a really, really, really big problem, like by anybody's standards, or at this point in time, you might just be like literally nitpicking.
Right.
It's like it's your biggest problem, but it's like your problems just aren't that bad.
Right.
You know, I think realistically, you'd be a lot happier if you just like let that one go.
Right.
And if you could let that one go, then you might not even worry about the other really small ones behind it as well.
Right.
Like you can draw the line. It's like you have made it.
Anything that doesn't reach this height, just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that is the question. So it's like, yeah, there's a part of me that thinks it's like, it's almost like a, in some ways, like maybe putting yourself first and attempting to like really prioritize that, like in a good way. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if I can like solve those, but for me, I guess the bigger question is like, will it ever end?
Will it ever end? Will it ever stop bothering you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you ever like find contentment?
I mean, I think it's certainly possible. I don't feel like I'm constantly dealing with like some next giant problem.
No, I know. And I mean, this is probably like, I would say the key differences in our personalities on the whole.
Okay.
Somehow, some way, despite the fact that we grew up in the exact same household and are very similar in a lot of different ways, mm-hmm. This is probably the area where we are just like complete polar opposites. Mm-hmm. But that's okay, though.
Yeah. That's not to say I don't ever have problems. You know?
No, I know. Okay. Well, so to move on from that, I have one last question for you. And this is I think funny, and hopefully it can be fun.
Okay.
It can be fun. Okay. So there was a small programming snafu, I believe, somewhere on the Reddit that someone posted, where the popcorn culture thumbnail was placed on the podcast of just something else entirely. So yes. you see the popcorn culture thumbnail, and beside it is the title, The Plot to Steal Lincoln's Body.
The Plot to Steal Lincoln's Body. Yes. What was... I saw this too on the Reddit. It was a different like true crime kind of podcast or something.
Yes.
It looked like it must have been that. So presumably at some point in history, someone was trying to do this.
Yes.
But we were listed as our thumbnail was on this podcast. So someone was like, I can't wait to hear Ben and Jay discuss their plan to steal Lincoln's body.
Which I think we should do.
We need that body.
Why? I have no idea.
Don't know.
But I mean, this is the thing. It's like
probably a treasure hunt.
Yes.
Right?
So here's my thinking, is that probably he had a ring on his hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense. He was married.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But inside of the ring is an engraving.
Yeah.
And that engraving is the password to something important.
Something.
And so that is what we need. That is why we have to do this.
Yeah.
Because we have to figure out what the engraving is.
Yeah.
And it will probably lead us to a ship.
Probably.
If I had to guess.
Lincoln's ship.
Because little known fact about Lincoln is that he had a great ship.
Great ship.
Yes. And that great ship, what was very unique about it is that it would spend most if not all of its time at sea.
Yeah.
Right? Because Lincoln sort of had this thing about him, which is that like the open waters are owned by nobody. And so while Lincoln ruled a nation, he also ruled pirates.
He also ruled pirates. This is Lincoln's great. See, this is why he had the big hat.
But he never came into port. He would never, like the ship would never come into.
never came into port.
The ship would never come into. So it always stayed out to sea, which means that nobody could ever inspect it because it was always out to sea.
Always out to sea.
But what's interesting about this, though, this is where things get wild.
Yeah.
Okay, because it means that supply trips had to be made both to and fro.
You need ships to supply the ship.
You need a ship to supply the ship, right? And the thing was, I mean, this is the way that like all of the treasures were being brought out of the ship, because I mean the ship could only hold so much treasure for so long, and the crew needs stuff.
Right. So do you think the ship was always manned?
The ship was always manned.
Someone's always on the ship.
Oh yeah, I mean it was always at work too. So
you
like
gotta have like quite the inner circle that you're trusting with your pirate ship.
Well, we were on a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean it's like, there's a blood pact. We all cut our hand, shook hands.
Yeah. By we you mean Lincoln?
Well, Lincoln and his company, his band of pirates.
Fun fact about Abraham Lincoln: if you look at his hand close enough, you can see where he cut it for a blood pact.
This is true.
Exactly. These are truths.
These are truths. But the thing is, so I mean, I say that it never came into port, but what it did have a location that it could exist at sea, that it could consider its home base, because this is the point where all of the supply runs needed to take place.
Right.
Because they needed to know how to connect with it.
Right.
Otherwise, it was out doing work. It was out doing pirate stuff.
Now,
right?
let me ask you this. So the legend is, though, that the password or some code lies with Lincoln's body.
Coordinates.
Right.
Yeah.
The coordinates lie with Lincoln's body. Is it possible that we're not talking about Lincoln's own physical body, but more like his body of work or something?
You know what? It feels like it's both.
It could be both.
Because you have the coordinates on his body to his body of work, which is the location that the ship would rest, coordinates-wise, for all the supply missions. But the thing is that eventually it has to be the location where the ship went down.
Right.
Because statistically speaking, it is the one spot in the entire ocean where it would have spent most of its time. And so it is widely believed that all of the treasure on this ship is at that location, sunk beneath the sea.
So Lincoln's treasure lies beneath the sea.
That's exactly what I'm going for.
And that's why we
here.
need Lincoln's body.
Because
it'll lead us to Lincoln's body of work.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Lincoln at sea. Oh, man. I feel like there needs to be...
I so hope that the coordinates take us to like a log cabin, and you have to like go inside the walls, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like inside the walls of the log cabin?
Right, inside the walls of Lincoln's logs.
We need to end it. Oh my gosh, guys! There is one tidbit I would like to continue to let you know about, and that is that the Q1 quarterly merch option is now publicly available information.
Yeah,
I'm like wandering into this sentence. So I don't
like
even
just
know
wondering
where I'm
about the treasure now.
I know, my mind's
wait
still,
a minute.
Yeah, no,
where even is his body?
For Patreon at our $25 tier, it is the quarterly merch tier. Each quarter of the year, we come out with a really cool piece of merch that Jay and I curate ourselves. And the reason that we do it this particular way is because it allows us to come up with some really, really, really unique merch options for you. And it allows us to produce the exact number as per demand. And as creators, I can tell you that one of the things that is very difficult to calculate is how many people might want a thing you come out with.
Very hard to come up with.
This is a really good way for us to know exactly how many to produce. And so your support is going as far as possible. If you would like to sign up for that, the quarterly merch for Q1 is a deck of cards. It's actually 2 decks of cards that are being custom made by the King's Wild Project, which is like a specialty cards company where all of the artwork, everything to do with the cards, will be fully customized to like the pop. So there will be like inside jokes, like the face cards could possibly look like people we've talked about here. Possibly. You know, I mean, who's to say? The opportunities are limitless. If you would like to sign up for that before March 31st, you will get 2 decks of those cards. Or at the $10 tier or above, we also have a special offer going on right now until March 31st, which is an uncut sheet of these cards. So it's almost like a poster, but like before they put it through the punch press to make all of the individual cards. So you'll have like a big sheet.
Big sheet of cards.
It's going to be really, really, really cool. Again, that's patreon.com/popcornculture. Otherwise, until next time,
pop.